So everybody, you might have noticed, if you even care, because maybe you didn't notice, but that was different theme music than usual. And I did that for my friend George McGowan. And George, if you're watching, that is you gave me a new idea for a contest. So you heard that music, and you're none of you are probably an eighth of geek that I am. So, but I will tell you this: if you are the first to comment on the correct movie that music's from, then I will send you a $10 Tim Hortons card, and you will win that, because I told you guys the geek information that the normal theme for Hope at 7 is the Hero's March from The Last Starfighter from 1984. And if you guess the different theme music every night, I will send you a $10 Timmy's card. So that was what movie or what movie series, if you want to do it that way. And then if you're the first to comment and you get it right, I'll go through my Facebook comments after, and I will send you that Timmy's card. And tomorrow night's going to be a different theme, so you want to be on there right at 7 o'clock if you want a shot at winning that free ice frap, or whatever I think they call them an ice. No, it's an ice cap. It's a Frappuccino at Starbucks, and at Tim Hortons, it's an ice cap. And yeah. So anyway, welcome to Hope at 7. Hope you guys had a good day. It is Friday, as Paul Harvey used to say. It's Friday, and I got to tell you, I'm enjoying the fact that the weeks are going a little bit faster than they did a month ago, and I think it's because I'm a little busier, and I think the weather helps, because when it's gray and cold, and you know what, you're glad you're in the western half of North America, because I just saw the news, and like they're going to get like snow in the east. It's going to be like almost colder than Christmas in the east, in the States right now. The way that the weather system splits in half, I'm glad I'm on this side of the mountains, or whatever it is. But anyway, folks, welcome to Hope at 7. I hope that we can encourage you. It's our prayer that you know how much God loves you, and that this little live post we do every day will encourage you. And today we got a special guest. It is a new friend to me, and a long-term online friend of my wife. Everybody say hi to Linda. Now, Linda, is it Linda Nicander Crosby?
It's just Linda Crosby.
Linda Crosby, okay. On Facebook, you got that must be your maiden name there.
That was so all the boys in high school can see what they missed out on.
Okay. Awesome. Well, we're glad you're here, Linda. Linda, you and Sandra, Sandra's my wife, everybody, you probably knew that, but you and Sandra met online probably, good grief, probably around 2003, 2004. Does that make sense? On some scrapbook site?
Yeah, and it was a Yahoo group, which is so funny because nobody uses Yahoo groups anymore. Yeah, we met on there, and then we found out that we actually knew her cousin. He went to church with us, and it was just nuts. And we've just stayed in contact online, never met in person, and it's kind of cool what the internet does for us.
That is pretty cool. So I know about you through Sandra, and I was listening in April. Sandra would turn on this funny lady, and you were doing something in April called Corona Joy. Is that right? Yeah.
Well, I'm taking actually a School of Ministry course that's from Church for the Nations down here in Phoenix. And when all the Corona stuff started happening, they encouraged us to use whatever gift we have to reach out to others and encourage others during the quarantine. And so I decided that I would go on Facebook Live, which freaked me out because I had never done that before. And I just decided for the days of April, I would go online every night at 8 o'clock, and I only forgot twice, so that was good. And sometimes I had good, deep theological messages, and other times I just told funny stories about things my family have done to me. So, but it was fun. I really enjoyed it. And I came on, we redid 2 bedrooms during the quarantine. And so I came on in my paint clothes, no makeup, hair in a bun, just whatever it was at 8 o'clock. I just went on, and I would only plan like 2 minutes ahead of time. So it was all very spontaneous, and it was a lot of fun.
That is cool. Yeah, you made us laugh, and I really appreciated that. I started watching The Office from season 1 again because I found that I'm going to make sure that I'm laughing hard at least once a day now. And it is really good medicine, especially in times that are so weird like this. So I really appreciated Corona Joy. And I'm
Good.
glad that you're here tonight, Linda. I really appreciate you being with us. And
yeah, well,
I'm going to hand it.
inviting me.
I'm glad that I invited you. So I'm going to hand it over to you. I'll mute my mic, and you take it away and share what you got for us tonight. We'll talk on the other side, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Bob. I was telling Bob earlier too that I have one Sycamore story for my life. I met my husband at Trinity Western University in Langley, BC, and I grew up in California, so that was all culture shock for me. I wore 2 pairs of sweatpants my whole first year living in BC, and then after we graduated, we moved up to Fort Vermilion, Alberta, and we lived up there for 3 or 4 years. And anyway, one time we were driving through Sycamoose. We were on our way down to Penticton to see my aunt. And it was at Christmas time, and we were going through Sycamoose late at night. It was dark, and we were poor college students, and we weren't going to pay for a hotel. We were going to drive through no matter what. And went right in the middle of Sycamoose. A bear ran right in front of our car. Like we never even... My husband was driving. He didn't hit the brakes. He didn't even have time. It just ran it right across in front, and we both just kind of looked at each other, and we both went, "That was a bear." And that's my entire Sycamore story. So we lived to tell the story, so that was good. I should tell you too, Phoenix. Okay, sorry about the water. There is this dumb yellow weed that has taken over Phoenix, Arizona, and it makes me have something in my throat right here. And I was outside today, and so anyway, so I drink a lot. So I told people at Corona Joy all the time to stay hydrated because all of us down here in the desert, we don't drink enough water. So excuse me. Okay, well, Bob told me you guys are talking about, he's been talking about relationships. And so it's kind of interesting that I came on tonight because tomorrow is our 33rd anniversary. And so I can tell you quite a few relationship stories. Rick and I have been through hell and high water, and there's not too many things that we haven't been through. And it's been rough and hard, and we've been to counseling I don't know how many times, and I enjoy telling people that I will gladly pay a professional for them to tell me that I'm right, but I'm not always right. So but I do I always tell people, you know, when they first get married, people say, "Oh, your first year is going to be horrible," and I would tell people, look out for year 22. It was horrible, year 22. And anyway, everything hit the fan, and but we have made it through, and nothing more than going through the hardest patch of your life makes you see how real Jesus is. And what I'm thankful for through our struggles is that I truly found out. I always kind of, you know, how you wonder in the back of your head, how will I make it through, you know, if this catastrophe happens? How will I make it through if that happens? And I got my questions answered. How would I make it through if your marriage falls apart? And what it really spoke to me through the whole thing was how real Jesus was, and how close he is to the brokenhearted, and how everything that I had been taught. I grew up in church. I got saved when I was 5. And everything I've been taught my whole life, everything I've taught my kids, I homeschooled all 4 of my kids, everything I've taught them was all true. And it all came down to just believing what the Bible said. And, you know, you wonder, you know, if we go through something that's really hard, will I still believe all of this? And that brought it home to me, that it really was everything that we have taught our kids, everything that we believe, that God is love, that if you forgive others, then you'll be forgiven, and it lets the load off your own mind. And it's just so wonderful now when we look at, like, our anniversary is tomorrow, and we're going to go away for 4 days, and we're just totally looking forward to it. We've never been more in love than we are now. And we've never, looking back, like, I think about when we first got married and fell in love with googly eyes at each other at Trinity Western University. I never, if you had told me the things that were going to happen in my life, I would have said, no way. There's no way that will happen to me. I'm a Jesus girl, and I have great faith, and God takes care of his own. But I've come to realize that God also takes care of his own while they're going through stuff. And so, anyway, we're excited to be married 33 years. I want to tell all your folks about a book that I wrote, which is kind of funny because this is it. It's called The Blue Flower Book, and it's all my writing. The whole thing is just my writing. And when I wrote this book, it was when we were first married. I was up at Trinity Western. We went up in the summertime because my husband was in flight school. So I was there by myself and he was away flying every day. And I listened to a Focus on the Family broadcast, and Dr. Dobson had on a psychologist, a marriage counselor. And he was telling the story about this couple that he had on. And when they came into the office, they had been married like 50 years or something. And when they came into the office for counseling, the counselor said, like, what can I do for you? And she pulled a book out of her purse and slapped it down on his desk and said, here is the book where I kept track of everything that he has done wrong for 50 years. And I thought to myself, good Lord, that man needs an award for staying with that woman. Anyway, at the end of the broadcast, what he said was, imagine if she had have kept track of all the nice things that he had done for her instead of all the horrible things. And so that's when I went, aha, I'll write a book. And so I bought this book with pretty flowers on the front because I knew Rick would never open it if I bought this one. And it took me, and in the beginning of the book, I wrote stuff like, this is going to be done in 6 months because you're so wonderful. And oh my gosh, your hair is so lovely. I can't tell you how many times I talk about his hair in the book. And maybe that was just because I needed to remember how much I loved his hair and where it used to be and how thick it used to be, because I was not aware that there was going to be hair relocation during our marriage. Anyway, it's all good. But it took me 2.5 years to write the book. And then it ended up being Christmas time. And this was like the last Christmas present. And my mom and my sister and I all have tears in our eyes because it's a beautiful moment. And so I give it to my husband as the last gift, and he opens it up and he kind of just like, kind of flips through it. And he's like, oh, you wrote this whole thing? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And he's like, he just kind of threw it down on the couch next to himself and said, okay, well, I'll read it later. And I was like, you're right, you'll read it later. And anyway, it did not go down like we had planned as the loving moment, the last Christmas gift. Anyway, that night in bed, we actually read through the entire book and just howled together. It was so funny, all the stuff in it. But one of the things that I like to point out was one of the things that I wrote in here. It says, I have found that when I am mad at you, if I get out this book and force myself to write something nice about you, my attitude changes. This book makes me smile when I read past entries about how nice you are. I'm glad I picked you. I really do think the world of you. But that really stuck home to me, that when I was mad at him, if I went and got the book out and then I forced myself to think of something nice, it changed my attitude. And he keeps it in his bedside table. And he pulls it out every now and then, and he says things like, when things aren't going really well, like year 22, it came out a lot. He'd pull it out and go, hey, let's read about when you used to like me. And let's read about how nice I was when we were in college. And anyway, it's just been a real treat for us to have it as a memory of the first years of our marriage. And it just has like the dumbest stuff written in it. Like, we had no money. We were both in college. And like, I was so excited to go to McDonald's to get ice cream and things like that. And having to do too with relationships. Well, first of all, I would encourage you, if you are having a hard time in your marriage, maybe get a book, get a journal, get whatever you have, type it out on your computer, and keep track of the nice things that your spouse is doing or has done, and remember back. Because one of the things that helped me too was, when I think back of our really rough times, I can also remember in those times when Rick was intentionally loving to me. And even though it was super hard, and even though it was horrible, I can remember times where he was intentionally nice. And so that sticks with me, and it kind of overshadows the horrible times that we had. And so I would encourage you, if you are having a rough time and you need to stay focused on the positive, maybe get a book and start writing stuff down about the positive. But as far as relationships go, I just remember when we were first married, and, we went to Trinity Western, and he was in flight school. And when you're first married, you're so young and dumb and in love. It's just wonderful. And I remember thinking, we are so in common. We like all the same stuff. Everything we think is the same. How we want to raise our kids is the same. Everything, we were made to be together, and it was all, so wonderful. And then the very first day we went shopping together, we were standing there, and it was the first time either one of us really had to buy our own food, because we just went from our parents' houses to the dorms where, food's provided for you. And this was the first time we actually lived by ourselves, not in dorms or with mom. And so we're in the grocery store for the very first time as a married couple, and we figured out we had some differences, and we didn't have much money, and I am a Skippy smooth peanut butter girl to the core, and I found out that Rick was Mr. Crunchy peanut butter. And so we stood there and we kind of had some words there in the grocery store, and I can't believe you didn't tell me that you like crunchy peanut butter when you met me. Like that, you should have told me that, because this could have been like an issue that it could have separated us in the beginning. But anyway, it was just funny. And I remember standing too in the cereal aisle and going, our mom never bought a sugar cereal, so now we can buy sugar cereal. So which one are we going to buy? And I picked Captain Crunch, and he picked some other sugar bomb thing. And it's just interesting how you're so alike when you're in love and when you're engaged. And as soon as you get married, 5 minutes later, the differences start appearing. And so I would encourage you to really look at how your differences are an asset to both of you. And one time, Rick and I were asked to speak at a couples event at our church. And it was kind of like a mingling thing ahead of time. There were a bunch of desserts set out and everything, and we were all eating. And so I'm thinking, I'm a planner. And so I'm thinking in my mind, okay, we're probably going to talk in 5 minutes. We need to get up to the front. I made sure I already went to the bathroom. I had chapstick on. I was ready to go. I had my water and everything. And so then the pastor comes over and says to us, well, you guys are going to be on in about 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay, so I'm in the front row, all ready to go. And I don't know where Rick is, right? He flies by the seat of his pants, and he's just a laid back Canadian to the core. And so finally I find him. He's back at the dessert table picking out a dessert. And I'm thinking, we're talking in 5 minutes. There's no way you're even going to have time to eat that, let alone, get up and speak in time. So anyway, he made his way all the way to the front, and he sits down next to me. And just when they're introducing, and here's, Rick and Linda Crosby are coming to speak to us. He's holding his dessert, and he was actually standing in front of me holding his dessert. And I'm like, what are you going to do with that? And so he sets it down on the chair because he realizes he doesn't have enough time to eat it. And then the pastor got distracted and started talking about something else. So instead of standing in the front the whole time, Rick decides to sit down. Well, he sits down on his chocolate cream pie that's on the front row. Okay. And he's wearing black jeans. And I'm just shaking my head like, what could we be more different? And what we were talking about that night was our differences. And so then they introduce, as soon as he sits down, then they go, Rick and Linda Crosby. And so we stand up and walk up there, and he grabs the mic and he says, can you guys hang on a bit while my wife wipes my bum because I sat in my pie. And so that's how we started our whole talk about the differences and how we have melded together through the years. Another story that I want to tell you about is it's so easy to see how the other person can do something wrong when they're doing something wrong. And so we had two instances that happened really close to each other. We were on vacation in San Diego, and we had gone out there to see some ships, and we had our kids with us, and we decided to go on a whale watching tour, a 3-hour tour. And so we went, and Rick has the video camera. And this is like the trip of a lifetime. We're going to go whale watching with our children. This is a homeschool field trip. Homeschooling doesn't get any better than this. And so Rick put himself in charge of the video camera, and he somehow in the bright sunlight of the California sun, he couldn't read in the little eye thing the difference between play and pause. But we didn't know this while it was happening. And so the whole time, and right away, the ship's captain found a whale, and it was a great whale, and they're on their way to Mexico and everything. So on the microphone, he was always saying, okay, right off starboard, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. And the whale would surface, and we'd all go over there and look, and it was so cool and everything. And then one time, even on the video, I actually said to Rick, you do have play figured out, right? And not pause, like you are filming the correct thing. He's like, oh, I'm totally filming the right thing. So anyway, we didn't know it was filmed wrong until that night when we got back to the hotel and we played it on the TV. And I have never laughed so hard in my life. The entire thing was, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes, and then it would turn off. And then it would turn back on as the whale goes back down under. We never saw the whale on the movie. And the whale would go back down under, and then it would be up like when it goes down, the very end of it, and then he'd hit pause, and then he'd turn it back down like this. And the whole rest of the video is his shoes walking around the ship. And he's even standing over a garbage can at one time holding it, and we can see everything in the garbage can, and you can hear us talking and everything. And then I guess the whales surface every so many, I don't know, 5 minutes or whatever. And so when the whale, here it comes, it's over here, it's over, go to that side of the ship. And as soon as Rick would like focus on the area that's starting to get white, then it would click off. And oh my gosh, we laughed so hard. But it wasn't just 2 years later. We were in Brooklyn, New York, and my son had competed for the Ace Bailey's National Skills Competition for hockey. And so he made it. He was 10 years old, and we were over there, and they did all the competitions throughout the 2 days and everything. And it was all like supersonic timed and everything. So we didn't keep track of who was winning, who wasn't winning. We didn't know. And so when it came down to the awards ceremony at the end of the whole thing, it was a 2-day event. I had the video camera that time, and I'm on the other side. So I'm thinking, I'm just going to videotape the whole thing. I'm not going to be dumb and miss it and whatever, you know. And so anyway, so I have the video camera. And so I start videotaping when they started. And it happened to be the very first one that they were announcing was the fastest skater of the 10-year-olds. And here they announced, it's Austin Crosby from Phoenix, Arizona. And then all of a sudden I realized I had the lens cap on the whole time. And so and you hear on the video, you hear the guy go, Austin Crosby, and everybody starts cheering. Then you hear me go, oh no. And then the lens cap comes off and we get the video of Austin skating off the ice. And so we have both had our turns at being master videographers. And I encourage people, if you need videos taken, you can just call us. 1-800 The Crosbys are awesome. And but anyway, both of those times were times when we could have been completely ticked off at the other person and had like just life moments that we were really hoping to have on video, and we didn't. But we laughed about it. And I think that's the whole key right there, is just your choice of how you're going to respond to the other person when they make mistakes, and forgiving yourself and forgiving other people is really the only way that you can make it through life without being a really crabby person. Because anytime you're not forgiving someone else, it's just hurting yourself. And so I would just encourage you to find the joy. Find the joy in every situation. It is there somewhere, no matter how bad. I was quite surprised, actually, through the worst times in our marriage, how I still had a sense of humor. And there was this time when it was just bad. It was the worst it had ever been. And I decided that I was going to make a list of the stupid things Rick said in our worst time, because I thought they were hilarious. They were so stupid. I thought they were hilarious. And so I had my list that I started keeping, and to this day we read it and we just laugh. Like, he's like, I can't even believe I said that. I'm like, me either. That's why I wrote it down. But find the joy. Joy is a choice, and true joy comes from the Lord. And happiness is not joy either. Joy really comes from inside. It's a decision to be content in whatever circumstance you're in. And true joy comes from the Lord. And if you need some joy, go to the Lord, because he's the one that can give it to you. And I just want to say thanks to Bob for having me on here. I love talking. I love sharing the joy. I love having fun with people. And I just want to say thanks. I really appreciate it. I hope this encouraged some of you folks.
Well, it sure encouraged me. And I got to tell you, I I would say that for all of us videographerly challenged people, that the smartphone was a beautiful device.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that is amazing. That's awesome. So, you and Rick have some kids?
Mm.
You
We
got
have four.
Austin.
Yeah, Austin. Larissa is our oldest. She's married, lives in Tucson, and they've been married 5 years next month. And then Austin is our next one, and he eloped on February 29th. And
Wow.
we had known her for 2 weeks. We met her once, but she's lovely, and we love her, and we would have picked her. It just wasn't my plan to
Wow.
have a daughter-in-law, 2 hours after I found out I was going to have a daughter-in-law. So, and then our next one is Keeve. He's 21. And then our last one is Nora. And she's still at home. She's 16. And she's the last one I'm still homeschooling.
Okay, cool. And what church do you guys go to in Arizona? Do you have a church in Phoenix? Is that where you guys live?
Yeah, we're at the very north end of Phoenix, but it's called CFTN, and it's Church for the Nations. And there we go to the central campus. They have 2 other campuses as well, but we go to the central campus. And our son Austin he wasn't on staff there, but he was like a severe volunteer. He was there all the time helping with youth, helping with young adults, and so he kind of got us over there. And that's where I'm doing my School of Ministry. I started in September and we finished this month. So I did the whole year, and it has been fantastic.
Cool. So you guys are doing church online right now? Do you watch it on Sunday morning or Saturday night?
Yeah, we watch Sunday morning, and yeah, it's been really good. Our church has always been online, and so that's always been an option. But boy, we are missing meeting together. I am looking forward to getting back together. Down here in Arizona, it's not like totally official that churches need to be closed. They're encouraged to be closed. And so we just started our easy open this week. And so I'm hoping maybe not this Sunday, but maybe after that. Restaurants all open up next Monday. So if restaurants can open, churches should open.
Gotcha. Well, Linda, you've written 2 books, Laughing in the Midst of Marriage. And what's the other one? Laughing
in the midst of mothering.
In the midst of
mothering.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. So what we'll do is I will share the link to your Facebook profile.
Sure.
And then through your website, folks can watch Corona Joy and hear your stories and be encouraged that way and laugh. And then maybe through your website, we'll be able to find your books, right?
Yeah, well, my website is unfortunately down at the moment. We need to redo it. So if anyone wants a book, you can just contact me right on my Facebook group or my Facebook page, and we'll get hooked up there. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's neat. So, Linda, would you just pray for all of us as we head out tonight? Is that cool?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to.
Thanks.
Good. Thank you, Father God, for being so awesome. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for speaking to us. Thank you for delivering us and forgiving us. And Lord, I just thank you for relationships that anyone who's watching, any relationship that they're in right now, Lord, I pray a blessing on it. And I just pray, Lord, that prejudices and unforgiveness would be brought to the surface, Lord, and that your love would just flow through people. I pray that they would focus on you, Lord, and not on the other person, Lord. I pray that you would show people in their own lives what they need to work on. And I just thank you, God, for being with us. I thank you for creating us to be relational people. And we just thank you, God, that we were most importantly created to have fellowship with you. And I just pray a blessing over all the listeners. I pray that they would find joy in this time when it's really difficult. And I pray, Lord, that we would be able to shine your love to others, no matter what we're doing, and especially to those that are in the house with us during quarantine, Lord. And I thank you for Bob and Jermico putting this on, Lord. I pray a blessing on them as they spend their time encouraging others. And I just thank you for the church they're a part of. I pray a blessing on it. And I pray that peace would just go out from it and serve those in the community. In your name, amen.
Amen. Good stuff, my sister. Thank you so much. That was fun.
Thank you.
And
I loved it.
You rock. So thank Rick and your family for lending you to us for this time. Appreciate it.
I will. Thank you. Say hi to Sandra.
I will. God bless, Linda. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, folks, we'll see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock. And I'm starting a new series. So Linda put the icing on the cake for our relationship series. So we're starting a new series called You Asked For It. So what I want you to do is I want you to ask anything, any question you have. And I'm not guaranteeing I will have the answer, but the Word of God's got a lot of good answers. So anything you've been wondering about God or life or anything, just direct message me on Facebook, and we'll just have some fun with it. And so we'll start You Ask For It tomorrow night, hope at 7. So send me some messages. And the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you. The Lord be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face toward us all, and I know he has, and give us peace. God bless you guys. Have a good night. Thanks, Jermico.